Welcome to another episode of A Candor Gander. Labor Day weekend, no rest for the wicked. Am I right, Bless? um, Grab a drink. Feel free to take a seat. Welcome to that flock. Consider a like, subscription. Not done that before. Turn on those notifications. Feel free to catch us. Sort of an impromptu episode today. Not so much in the thinking behind the show, but in the production of the show. Pretty busy this week, but I know it's sort of hard to get both of our schedules to link up there. Blessed, happy we're able to pull something together. Um, lots to be able to share. Pick your brain. I know you're one of the quiet experts out there. So with that said, Bless, how you doing? How you doing tonight?
Good. Tired. Woke up early this morning, but
Oh,
I
kids.
took a nap. I took a nap. I took a nap before that.
Nice, 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 nice. So it's been a minute since we've last spoken, since we last saw each other. A lot's changed. We'll get into some of that strategy, see what you're doing with your hero level ups. Before then, though, I want to hear what are you doing as far as DFK strategy as a whole? What's your what's your strategy for sort of maximizing your gains there? How have you pivoted in the last just like months, but I'm sure it's been weeks since we last spoke.
Um. Well, let's see. I think overall, people have to understand that Kingdom Studios, DFK in a whole, now with them adding partners and the changes from Harmony, moving from Harmony, the vote that just went through, the market's been in a flux. The supply and demand on heroes and the cost of these tokens is based off pure speculation and people's own evaluation. So if you've been around since last year, or in the peak like January when it hit $24, um, you might have a different viewpoint on how much heroes are worth and how much you're willing to sell them for, how much you know how much you're willing to buy them for. So it really depends on what uh, you value things as. And again, they're digital assets with growing utility. And I think Kingdom Studios is moving in a good direction, and they make all they definitely do a lot of communication and talking through tokenomics and what's best for the community, and that seems to be a consistency with them, and that's why I've stuck with the project. The last AMA they mentioned, and I felt like they were speaking directly to me. A lot of things, some of that's more of a inside joke for me, but I feel like they were speaking directly to me on some things. But just some of the stuff they said during the AMA just really resonated with me, and how um, was it Frisky or Dreamer um, was talking in the last AMA, and just how they like to hear differences of opinions. Even as long as they're respectful, and I've always tried to do that and speak up not only for my own individual points of views and opinions, but also for what the community would like to see. So I try to give that out. Not only in Discord but on the community side, build site, and but yeah, there's lots going on in the space.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned, the value of heroes, maybe pivoted, maybe not. I know when I first met you, you were big on like snagging up those steal of a deal PJ heroes. Are you summoning? Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you sort of staying put and focusing on some of the? Are you going full degen and doing some of the arbitraging? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm holding the assets that I have. I did, when Jewel got really low, I did go through a summoning phase. I thought
Yeah.
it would be beneficial to to summon, and I mean it paid off. Um, I ended up getting um, I pulled one legendary out of
Nice.
the several summons that I did. I think I spent like about 2,500 jewel, several rares, advance. Some overall just good um, profession heroes, and then uh, my wife actually pulled the legendary Sage,
Nice.
3 out of 3, double luck Fisher, and I
Oh.
and I finally made that trade with none other than Three Wolves.
Oh my God. That's an
First
epic
trade,
trade.
first trade ever. I remember one time we were joking on stream and giving Three Wolves a hard time, but I finally made a trade with him, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy trade because we're both tough negotiators, and finally we came to an agreement, and I think both parties were pleased. So
No, and and that's one of the fun. It's so many ways to play the game, and game and asterisks. I know some people go back and forth on whether it is or it isn't a game, but in many respects, it's sort of a game. I mean, the negotiating piece. I mean, it's sort of a fun component. I've done some of that myself with not just Three Wolves, but other people too, where it's like, hey, I've got this, I want that, let's talk a deal, and that can be pretty fun. If you're into that kind of stuff. Otherwise, it might just be a stressful sort of mess. But it's interesting. No, it's what how big's your stable of heroes now?
um, so we're around about 70.
Okay, not bad. Yeah, I'm about there too. Uh, it's one of those. Can you still consider yourself a small wallet? I find a hard time telling myself that I have just as many heroes, and it's like I'm not a big fish by any sort of you know no matter how you spin it, but I'm no longer a shrimp, and I don't know where the threshold is, and I'm sure it's all perspective, but I still feel like a small wallet.
Yeah, I'm probably there with you. I've probably invested about 12,000 into the project. So,
Oh yeah,
but
and
but
it sounds like a whole lot of money, but I'm sure, like me, you wrote that that
I
candle down.
yeah, I DCA'd all the way from the top to the bottom,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and there I think that was the only thing to do, especially
right.
anticipating being in the project long term. And
Yeah. No, no, no. So that's great. And I think we can start diving into why one of the big reasons I wanted to sort of pick your brain, and we were sort of getting into this before we went live, the idea of leveling up your heroes and the true way to level up your heroes. And I use quotation marks because in truth, there isn't a right way, there is one way of many. We were chatting about how you can either go the route of profession leveling up, one way, and to the other, very much more speculative route of PvP, PvE, sort of prepping your heroes. um, I think for a novice, for someone who maybe is not sort of into what we're talking about, could you break down the difference, and what that means for you, and maybe talk about what you're doing with your heroes?
well, I would say there are several different ways to level your heroes. I do believe there is a right way, and I do believe I believe there's a couple different right ways, and I believe there is a wrong way to level your
Probably
hero.
many wrong ways.
Probably many wrong ways. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is that, and and the devs have spoken on this, is that your professions are based off of how high the skill rating of that specific profession is. So even if you have a paladin that has, let's just say um, purple vitality, it's got, one of the best stats because paladin's primary three stats is strength, vitality, endurance. That's the primary growth percentage for paladins, and strength, vitality, endurance is 80%. So if you have double strength paladin, double vitality, a double endurance, or strength, vitality, any of those combinations, that makes for a good combat paladin. I think where people get lost is they say, "Oh, look, my paladin's a fisher, so I have to look at this chart that somebody made that says luck and agility is what's best for fishing, so somehow I need to incorporate luck and fishing into my paladin." Well, if you look at the paladin, luck is only a 40% primary increase for the paladin, and agility is even less at 35%. So when you're playing a numbers game when leveling, um, why would you put points into luck and agility into your paladin if those primary stat growths are half of what the stat growths are of the paladin's primary um, stats
So yeah, so
specifically?
for our viewers, let me go ahead and on the screen here is the chart you've come up with and you've shared with me. Where'd you pull the information from this, Bless?
And that's straight off the docs um, website from Kingdom Studios DFK website. They have it formatted a different way, so I just took it in Excel and I made it color coordinated so I could kind of see. Um, and I mean, and they added. It wasn't always there, but they ended up adding it um, on the back of the cards for each hero as well, which is great. And this just shows the primary stat growth for each class. Now, when you look at the secondary, it's not the same. It's less. So that secondary class does play a role. I believe it'll play maybe a greater role in the future, maybe with spells, skills, and abilities. But again, that's speculative. But right now, what we have to go on is stats and numbers. And so at the end of the day, if you're not leveling your heroes based off what their primary stat growth percentage is and getting the best class, like obviously, we'll just say, for example, you want something with good vitality for a paladin. We'll just keep going with paladin. If you have a paladin knight, the vitality on that paladin knight, you're going to get better secondary rolls because vitality is a higher secondary percentage um, for that paladin, with knight being the secondary class. Now, if you have something like a paladin, something that's lower in vitality, say like a priest or a archer, um, they generally have about 50%. Um, Not generally, but as far as the primary goes, I'll just stick to primary. But you can see how it scales down when you move in from primary to secondary. So if you look at the green in the green box where it says 50%, you'll see that the archer has vitality and agility listed. You'll see that the thief under 50% has vitality listed. So if you're wanting to pump vitality as one of your primary stats for your paladin, then you want to get a paladin that has a secondary class that is high in vitality. We're
Mm.
speaking strictly for vitality growth. I mean, obviously, the knight benefits a paladin very well because you can look at the knight's three main traits: vitality and strength. 75% under the medium blue there for the knight, vitality, endurance, and then the darker blue, strength, at 70%. So if you have a paladin knight, that's it's going to be a good match because those three primary stats for the paladin match up with the secondary very well, and you're going to end up getting better rolls and more stat rolls. Now, of course, the rarity comes into play, um, and
Right, right.
and you can level heroes as heroes for professions, but you want to make sure that you're buying heroes that are in line with um, those professions. And If you want to get a hero that's good at combat and a profession, you're going to pay a premium. That's why those characters sell for a premium. Now, if you just want a good combat paladin, you can get one that has strength, vitality, and endurance. That's legendary, rare, or mythic. But if he's mining, you're going to pay a premium because due to the fact that um,
Professional aligned, and he's rocking those stats.
exactly
Yeah.
that is the reason why. Now, just because he's a fisher, that doesn't mean you want to make your paladin an awesome fisher. Because once you make him an awesome fisher, he's going to be half-assed at combat, and he's still going to be a good fisher because is fishing. Yes, you get a benefit from luck and agility, but primarily you get the benefit from the actual skill using the profession. Now, some people go to an extent of not even using that primary profession that's on the hero. Like some people for a long time were buying priests were not that were mining, but they didn't actually have the mining primary profession. You know, the green that's lighted up on the back. And I know what you're talking. You know that I'm what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
referring to.
Rep, 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 rep. So
But
a few questions or a few comments I would want you to sort of get a reaction from you on.
mhm.
We've got Mr. Kupo himself here. In terms of his strategy, what do you think? So he's going half and half. He's going. You're doomed to be a professions hero. You're doomed to be my PvP PvE sort of hero. Are you doing something similar with yours? I mean, are you saying, hey, you know what, at summon, I'm assigning you this task, or do you maybe wait a level up or two and sort of figure, hey, you know what, you're sort of RNG is kind of directing you in this way. I mean, how do you decide who's your profession sort of hero, who's your PvP PvE hero, or it almost sounds like you're kind of going for a little both there.
um, well, what I would say, I'd say Kupo's correct. As soon as they're summoned, as soon as a hero comes into the world and walks through that portal, and you don't know what it is until you click on it. Once you click on it and you see what the profession is, what the primary class is, what the secondary class is, and you see those stat alignments, that's when you can make the determination whether it's going to be something that you want to use for combat or something that is better for professions, or maybe it's good at both.
So, and here's a question for you, something I hadn't considered or thought about. For I don't know how much, and I'm sure you do. I mean, are you looking at advanced, elite, transcendent sort of stats, and do those play a role into whether or not, hey, you know what, this guy's set up to be he's set up to be a sort of a nasty sort of PvP kind of guy, or is it you're not even looking at that because that's really secondary, tertiary for you?
I mean, again, that's speculative. I don't know how beneficial the basic, advanced, elite transcendents are gonna have. I don't think Kingdom Studios really has a solid answer for that yet. To be completely honest, um, from what I know, I mean, there may even be a possibility for that hero to obtain and go from basic to advanced. And that was their initial, after talking to some of the devs, that was their initial idea, was giving them two actives and two passives. So I believe that they are going to branch out from that. And depending on, I mean, of course, there probably will be some benefit, but how effective that is and how much weight that holds, it's to be determined. So as far as leveling goes, I would say you got to stick to numbers, and if if the primary class and secondary class are beneficial to the profession, um, then there's no problem. If it's let's just say ninja, for example. Ninja's three primary stats are, well, number one is agility at 85% for primary, dex 75%, and luck 60%. So, I mean, what you could do, since ninja is the best fisher in the game, because it has it. The reason they do that is they add the agility for the ninja, and they take that 85%, and they take the luck, which is 60%, and they add them together, and that gives you a total overall estimated, um, basically percentage on how good they are for fishing. And there's many other. There's another chart out there. Do you have that chart that shows the classes based off? I have one if you don't.
Yeah, I don't have it handy. If you don't mind sending it to me, and while you're looking for that, I could have another reaction for you. It's sort of an interesting. Something I'd not thought about. But maybe you have. Jordy here. He's got a feeling that the subclass would play into some of these abilities. Um, I don't know whether or not you've content. It's all speculative, right? In many respects, but do subclasses play sort of anything? Does that sort of do anything for you as far as like how you want to level someone up?
I mean, without looking at each individual card, I mean that's what I was doing on my streams. Right before you were starting
Yep, yep.
the I was trying to go over each individual card. You can't just blanket statement. This hero is these types of heroes are for this. Every card is unique. Um, I mean, there might be some out there that are exactly the same, other than cosmetics, but you really have to look at the class. You have to look at the primary. You have to look at the secondary for the classes. You have to look at the profession. You have to look at the stats. You have to see if there's a bonus in that stat. And really, I mean, what do you say?
Let me pull it up again. So he's got a feeling that subclasses will play into abilities.
Yeah, I think he's right. But again, that's speculation. We don't know how that's going to be implemented. I'm sure Kingdom Studios is still brainstorming on how that's being implemented. I mean, they're starting with PvP first. That's why they brought Wisdom on board. Um, so we'll see how that transitions into PvE as well. So.
Some monkey wrenches to consider, and I know again all speculation, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this. So, what are pets gonna do to heroes growth? How does that play a role, if any? Um, and is that gonna throw a monkey wrench into all our plans? Right, we were all sort of going left when maybe we should be going right. You know what I mean?
Um, n- no, I don't think too much. The way that, and I talked this over with several people. I know you mentioned Stronghold before, and we had a conversation, a chat face to face for a while. And there's specifics. If you look at pets close enough, you'll see that there's some similarities to them. I won't spoil it, but if you look at them, just from the two eggs that we have released now, the blue and the gray, there's consistencies in the type. Was it the craftsman? What do they call it? No, I gotta look at it. What do they call it?
No worries. While you're looking that up, shout out to Mr. Sinjuro himself. Hello, welcome.
I
So
need to
yeah,
get
so
a I need to get a wig, like a Sinjuro wig, and
oh
wear
my
it.
God. If yeah, if any devs are listening, Sinjuro inspired pets. I've been asking for those in the Gen chat. Any Sinjuro inspired merch, I'm off for that too. We love the guy. He's an awesome person.
He needs to start collecting royalties off of all
No
the stuff.
kidding. Dude, missed opportunity. Sinjuro, you're listening, start charging tax every time. Copyright, trademark that image. um, and I know you're still digging some stuff up here. But
And
to the other,
they're just calling it crafting.
okay.
So under the, I just wanted to make sure. So the professions that we talk about on Heroes, they're calling them, the bonus categories are gathering, and then you also have the content to come, which is crafting. So if you look at, um, goldsmithing, you'll notice a common theme of the element of all the pets. So what that entails, we'll see, and the same goes for um, every other crafting for blacksmithing, or will go since blacksmithing's not out. So only thing we have right now is what we have. We have goldsmithing. Um, what's the other one? Armor smithing, and is it wood woodworking.
I
Those are the
think you're
three.
right. Yep,
Those are
I think
three
you're
that
right.
we have. So those three different ones have their own individual element. But the only thing that I know for sure right now, without going too far into speculation, is that the rarity of the pets will increase the XP gain for heroes, as they mentioned previously.
And and I was we were talking briefly about meta moves, right? In terms of how you can arbitrage and make snag up some deals. I mean, pets pretty underpriced, no? I mean, even some of those common pets. I've seen some geese of all pets, going for like 20 something jewel, for example. You got some of your other ones too going for pretty inexpensive jewel amount. Let's not even talk about eggs. I mean, I've been buying up green eggs for like 12 jewels. So, um, but anyhow, yeah, I mean, it's sort of interesting. We'll see what pets end up doing to some of these to our hero stack growth. How that all plays into what we're all doing here. Any thoughts on dark summoning and how that can throw monkey wrenches into everything we're doing? And a great comment here from Jordy.
I I don't know how the. I mean, that's something that's not even in existence yet, or how
Yeah,
it's even going to function, or if it's even going to release at all. I think it's still in a brainstorm phase, and if it comes before the end of the year, I'd be surprised. So if it comes at all, I mean, I'd be surprised, and how it's going to function is going to
right.
be interesting. So I don't know if it would throw a monkey wrench into things. I think they're still going to have to follow, the stat priorities. I don't know what they meant by enhanced. Um, so we'll see. Maybe there's like a crafting bonus on there or
We,
something.
we we
I don't
may
know.
see sooner than later. I mean, we'll find out for sure. I don't know. I'm a betting man here, but I think um with some of those partnerships, I think we may all be surprised with what happens before end of year. Um, Surprised
I mean,
one way or the other.
they they don't like to put a stamp on when things are going to release.
Right.
They like to do their thing week to week, um, and not make promises. I did ask Bolin and the AMA to if they could put up a clarification of where they're at, what they're working on, and what their priorities are. Not necessarily a roadmap per se, but like what are we looking for as investors, as community members, upcoming, just so we know what to expect from the short term and releases wise. If
And
if
I think this relates to what you're getting at. Taking a stab at all our assets as a whole. I mean, floor for items. I wouldn't. Speculation from you. When do you think floor for things, not just pets, but I think heroes and some of our items? I would argue that maybe now. I mean, really, if you think about it, big picture. I think floors now-ish. What do you think, Bless?
I mean, if history repeats itself, once new eggs release, um, those prices of the new eggs will increase, and um, there may be a frenzy around the pet market. There may be more information released about pets. Um, who knows? We might have pets for utility at that point. So I mean, to speculate whether um, it's at a floor, it really depends on how much you want to pay for uh, a specific digital NFT. So I mean, jewel price is still low uh, compared to its history. So, I mean, even though it's increased, um, do you want to be spending Joule? Is another question. Joule it has a new functionality now. So people that are selling things on Serandale for Joule, is there a reason for you to sell your Joule? Do you think it's going to go lower now because the functionality of Joule's changed? Do you believe it's going to go higher? So, and once things on Serendale are, excuse me, once Serendale is gone from Harmony, you will no longer have the option to purchase things with Jewel. And until that transition with the liquidity pools and everything's phased out and the locked and unlocked mechanics are switched over to Clayton and into Crystal, there's going to be a lot of change. There's a lot of transition. So I think if you feel like there's a good deal out there for something that you want specifically, I would say go for it. I'm not going to give any financial advice because um, crypto is a tough market. I could say put all your money in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin cuts in half tomorrow. I could
Yeah,
say put all your money in Avalanche, and Avalanche drops $5 tomorrow. You don't know because somebody might be like, man, I'm tired of holding on to this bag. I just want to put a down payment on a car. So 100 people might do that in one day. So you don't know. Money is in flux, and people don't have a real reason to hold their money into crypto right now, and that's what I'm trying to actually pitch to the devs right now is to eventually get rid of the locking and unlocking mechanism. I posted that in your Discord earlier. The topic.
yep.
Uh, Bolin was going to speak on it in the AMA, but I asked a bunch of other questions prior to that, and he didn't get around to that one before
So
time ran
so
out.
so let's do this. I because I do want to get into some of this Serendale 2.0, some of the changes, some of those AMA sort of statements here in a second. But before I get there, I kind of want to put maybe a placeholder on the whole concept of leveling up. I know you have that sheet you've shared with me. I know it's publicly available, but if someone wanted sort of your nicely coded sheet, where could they get that from? Is that something that's available to the general audience here?
I Stronghold's put a lot of work in on putting all these charts. That one's not even updated. It doesn't have the Berserker Seer on it.
Yep.
So I would just go to DFK Expert if you got the
Sweet.
link for that. I would any charts that you want or any specific information. Stronghold's been working long hours to put
Absolutely.
lots of infographics. So if you want any of those charts, um, I would say go there and look and do your research.
No, no, absolutely. That's great. I love that. I think what I'll do is after the show, I'll go ahead and dump that link, see if I can find specific link to the chart in the comment
You
box, the
can
note section.
yeah,
Um,
you can bring up that profession chart. I mean, that's an older one that someone made, and I think a lot of people
oh
have
yeah, yeah,
gone
yeah,
off that
yeah.
one for a
Let
long
me
time.
bring that up here. It's good. Thanks for pulling that or bringing that up to my attention. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. That tab. Here we go. Can you talk about what we're looking at here in a second?
No, can't do
Here
that.
we go.
You have to, you have to
There
pay
you go.
me.
There you go.
Um, yeah.
That's
So
it.
basically, strength and endurance. Is there any way you can put both of them right
Yeah, I
next to?
can. Yeah, let me do that.
I actually have it, but it's a really long chart. I don't know if it would fit in there really well.
It may not fit nicely, but I'll put them. I'll pull them both up and let me hide us. Here we go.
is. And just look under fishing, and you'll see where the paladin is.
Yeah, no, this is brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that. Could you repeat that one more time? To make sure I got this right. The reason it's 160 is because the two stats that we're focusing on are add up to the 160, which is why there's a premium
I
on
mean,
paladins or
yeah,
miners.
this chart. I don't know who made it. It's been around ever since I, you know, got jumped into Discord, and I didn't fully understand. Like, it took me. I think it was into January. I was like, why? What? How are people leveling their heroes, and why are they? And this was shortly after they implemented the primary stats on the back of the cards. I was like, oh, okay, now this makes more sense. I'm like, oh, they're so the and Stronghold again on his website goes into more detail on how the leveling actually affects um, how the rolls affect. You get one roll for this and two rolls for that. I won't go into that, but yeah,
Hey,
if
thanks for sharing. I had seen this chart many a times, and I've been sort of in the DFK game since about January. I didn't understand it. I just knew, oh, hey, cool, look, paladin's good. You want one of those strength endurance paladins. Now I get it. Now I get it. Thanks for shedding light on that.
yeah,
I'm a
and I
visual
mean
guy.
that's what you're gonna pay a premium for a mining paladin with strength and endurance.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna and you'll pay a semi premium for a paladin that's a minor, just because its base without the additive stats is still 80%. Now, if you get a paladin that has blue strength or agility, or excuse me, blue strength or endurance, or purple strength and endurance, you're actually going to get a higher percentage than that 160. But this is the base primary stat growth, and you can look at it on the back of every single hero card.
And then, with everything you said, could you cover this for me? Because it's something I've always wondered. At what point do you decide when you're leveling up your hero? You got the, hey, what do you want your primary? What are the two secondaries you want? When do you decide what goes at the primary? In the example of the paladin, you probably don't want strength and endurance. You maybe want vitality there, or what are you thinking in that example?
Are you talking about when you're actually leveling here, what you
Yep,
put in the bonus section?
correct. Yep.
I think that would what you put in the bonus section is what you wanted to. If you're consistent, like I am, I put the same thing every time. So if I want my paladin to have more HP, which is why is leveling up level one vitality scales. So if it's a vitality based class, which not all classes are vitality based, some of them are endurance based. Um, and some of them, I mean, all of them have vitality because every hero has every stat, but it depends on how you want to build your paladin. What is it geared towards? What's the secondary class? Is it a shoddy common paladin and it's fishing and you just need a fisher and you want to just throw agility and luck in it? I wouldn't even do that. I would I would just go buy something that is
Buy
that
a thief, buy a
even if it
ninja.
buy something buy a comp, it's going to be a better, in my eyes it's going to be more beneficial to put your points into something, because it doesn't look like there's going to be a redo. You're not going to get to level 20 and be like, hey, Kingdom Studios, I kind of allocated my points a little bit wrong. Can I change them up? I don't think that's going to happen. So you need to make sure you know what you're doing prior to putting those points in there. And then crystals on top of those, atonement crystals, crystals for each one. So you're making sure you're getting those triple rolls and quad or even higher when
Yeah,
they're every 5 levels. If it's a hero that you want to put those crystals into, like
right.
I don't put them into commons and uncommons. You know,
I stick to PJs, and if it's rare and above, it's what I do.
yeah. Uh,
Um,
I don't know.
it,
I don't even
yeah,
do that. I don't even do that. If it's PJ rare, it PJ PJ rare and above, and if it's not a PJ, then legendary um, plus is the only thing that's going to get crystals from me. And right now is a good time to actually grab some atonement crystals. I think they dropped, but then they might have pumped actually back up after this AMA because they came back and said
Bridging.
they are going to allow them. They have to pause. They have to do the pause. So for a while there, they were super cheap. I'm telling you, they were like under a jewel. Lesser atonement crystals were like zero point 0.5 after people realized they weren't bridgeable. And then they said that they weren't going to be bridgeable. But now that they've changed, you can probably go and look and see that they've definitely increased.
So I pause here to say Mr. Roundcloud7 couldn't make it today. He's busy at the old Fiat Mines, but he is wanting to do a contest, popped in for one. Um, in the chat here, he's letting you know that if you're on Discord, feel free to. He's doing a hidden giveaway. Give him, DM him a number between 1 and 1,000. I'm guessing he's giving something away to the person who gets closest to the right number. I don't suspect he's wanting you to nail the number down, and if you do, he owes you maybe double the price. So, um, with that said, let's move on to some of this Serandale talk. Serandale 2.0, some of these AMAs. Let me do a quick sort of cutaway, and then we can sort of roll into that segment. So let's take a gander, Mr. Blast. A lot happened, and I have to commend you for sort of opening my eyes. Something I had not thought about. I was hyped up when I heard, you know, that what the changes with tokenomics, how Jewel was going to change. It was going to go from inflationary to deflationary. Um, some of those things here. And I think we lost Mr. Bless. Did we lose him? No, here he is. Got to bring him on screen. Um, some of the things, deflationary, a lot of like positives I thought for Jewel. However, you did sort of bring up an important point. It's like, hey, you know what? You kind of sprung it on people. It was a comment you made, sort of in the sort of back end AMA chat. Can you elaborate on that and maybe let us know if you got any sort of answer to your question there?
Which one specifically?
So the one where you were asking about, could there have been a better way about sort of releasing the changes in tokenomics in a way that sort of wasn't sprung up on people?
Well, the tokenomics that were introduced by Kingdom Studios, and this isn't to bash Kingdom Studios. The a lot of reason why early investment projects like Kingdom Studios do these liquidity pools is, let's say you have, let's just for the sake of numbers, you have a 200% APR, and there's a certain amount in a liquidity pool. Let's just say it's X jewel, right? And the APR is 200%. And they, whatever their computations are on that, they give you an emissions, or they give you a flat emission based off um, the total value locked and your percent of how much you have within the pool. So your APR is the total combination of your locked and your unlocked. So how does that affect me now? Okay, so let's say you've had a liquidity pool for several months and you've put $5,000 in there, and your LP tokens are, you have, I don't know, let's just say you have like 1,500 LP tokens. Um, Jewel was supposed to give you I'm not talking about APR and dollars. It's supposed to give you emissions in the amount of, it was producing Jewel on Harmony and on Crystal. same thing. Or on a crystal veil, it's giving you crystal. So those APRs, those emissions, they're supposed to give you a certain amount. But when you change the tokenomics from Joule to now giving, basically getting rid of the locked Joule, those liquidity pools basically had little to no meaning. So when you changed, and I was trying to give, I was try, I was in a meeting with Dreamer and several of the other devs about tokenomics several times with Master of Coin and some of my other teammates that I network with on the project that we're working with, and several other things that we're working on. But if you're promising, it's not necessarily like they're promising something because they are in a beta state. But um, I think I think you can always improve on transparency. I think there's always a different way to go about things, and I try to give that insight when I feel like something's missed to Kingdom Studios, to not only protect them but to protect my assets and to protect the assets of the community. Um, so if do you understand my meaning? But like when that locked jewel is now being disseminated into other tokens, like 125 million goes into Crystal, you basically didn't get your return from your locked jewel that you would have got essentially in the same manner, and essentially the same manner for Crystal, because now Crystal's supply is double what it was previously. And I mentioned this and price adjustment, and some people agreed with me. Another person was like, "You're just salty because you had a big bag of Crystal." I'm like, "No, I don't. I have Crystal. I have Heroes. I have Jewel too. I have a liquidity pool that is Jewel matched to Crystal. So that way, if they do, keep going up and down, then they're just going back and forth into one another, and I'm
Right.
limiting the amount of permanent loss."
No.
Um, but we don't want to see these kind of large tokenomic adjustments in the future, and I don't think we will. This was kind of out of the blue. We're moving off a chain. We're moving into another chain. Um, I think the only thing that they potentially could have done better is instead of increasing the supply of crystal. But I understand why they did it from their perspective, because it gives them more runway. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah,
buying
yeah. Oh, yeah. You're buying
buying
yourself a year.
I'm more than that, probably. I
Yeah.
mean, by adding 125 million crystal to the supply, making it 250 million, and the same for Clayton, giving it 250 million, and taking that all out of the locked jewel and not increasing the total allocated supply. But you have to understand that each token has its own individual value, and you see what happened when that announcement went live. When that announcement went live on the AMA, um, you saw crystal drop because the supply doubled. And crystal was still holding its ground. I mean, um, Juul's not double what crystal is, and people don't know where things are going. They don't know if Juul's going to be cheaper, where the what the future of the project holds. It's all unknown. Tomorrow's not promised. So do your best today. Have fun.
And
Um, be
yeah,
wise.
and I got lucky. I got totally lucky because I'm a dum dum, and I've written I wrote Jewel from 22 down to where it's at now, and I'd be damned if I'm gonna move it. So I always had it. I always had it in Jewel, and it so happens that I was a beneficiary of the move. Again, super excited about it. I didn't think twice about it until I realized a lot of people were making decisions on where to hold their assets. Could have, the move at the time, maybe the right one to do or make was, hey, maybe hold your bags in crystal because Jewel's gonna unlock soon. It's gonna dump potentially, right? All these speculative sort of conversations that were being had in sort of among circle of friends, right? But um, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. In the near future, we'll see what happens with the new KPT. The
I think
Clayton.
that's I think
Yeah.
that was what the best thing to do for the community and for the project was. When Harmony started dying, the only logical thing seemed to be to move over to DFK chain. They're like, hey, our DFK chain's open. Come over there, start transactions. So why wouldn't you put some into Crystal if you're gonna play the game
Yeah.
game
Yeah.
on? I know that your last AMA with around Cloud and um,
Thanos. Yeah, that was a running joke, right? We agree to agree. I love the meme you made for us. You guys haven't seen it, but it's a great one.
I can make them look so much better. It just takes a lot of time to make them.
Oh, hey,
Look
I
good.
know I've made it when I've been memeified or gifified. I truly an honor. No, but no, I mean it's an interesting turn of events. We'll see where the how things play out. Uh, Sort of lucky there for me, like I said. Tell me about your thoughts. And I was kind of surprised. I was not expecting a new release of Batch of Heroes. I mean, what was your take on that?
I mean, it had to happen inevitably. I mean, you're not.
Inevitably.
I mean, you weren't gonna release Seer and Berserker basic class and give a shapeshift just one advanced. You had to climb the ladder on the other side to reach feature parity, and there'll be more. Um, so, I'm pretty sure that it's going to match what Serandale looks like.
And I
So
I have to ask you $1 million question. I've been wanting to hear from someone. I've heard it one way. I've heard it's a benefit. Yeah, I've heard it as this is a benefit, but I'm almost wondering if it is or it isn't. Thoughts on the new Gen Zeros? What does that do to the value of Gen Zeros as a whole, in your opinion?
well, I mean, as long as the value of summoning is essentially the price it is now, depending on how many heroes get minted over the course of when the tokenomics of those specific power tokens, which will now be Crystal and Clayton, and how they function. Um, I, I think we just have to look at the price action and see. I think Gen Zeros are always going to have their value due to being able to create those, Gen Ones. Um, if you have two, Gen Zeros, obviously, but how it would affect them in a negative or a positive way, I can't give you a straightforward answer because I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
I could speculate that, okay, hey, they're gonna, would they say 500?
500. Yep.
Okay, I could say, okay, there's going to be 500 new Gen Zeros. That's going to make the prices of Gen Zeros drop. But it's so early. I didn't realize how early it is still. And
Oh yeah.
the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, it was like it got that pump, and it was like, okay, things are on track, and things are going up. But the I think the reason that pump happened is because a lot of people were taking advantage of those liquidity pools,
Yeah.
and once people started dumping on the liquidity pools, that's when people were like, that's why I want to move away, and I'm suggesting that Kingdom Studios moves away from those liquidity pools because when you give those high APRs, the same thing's gonna happen on Clayton, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so there's going to be a token mint from Clayton. Um, I mean, it might not. It's not going to be the same as it was for Crystal Vale because that was a completely new expansion, and this is kind of a transferring of Serandale over to Clayton. So I would be surprised to see really high APRs like we did on Crystal Vale, but I'm sure people are expecting to, somebody could drop $10 million in there and keep it in there for a day and then pull their $1 million and make $1,000. I don't know. So just
I
just
I am
I would just say be
no, I was
careful. don't FOMO into.
Of course. It's too
And
late for me, Bless. Too late for me. I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to smash your piggy bank and put it into DeFi Kingdoms. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend like we put our 401k in there or anything. But no,
No,
I.
I mean,
It,
and that's the thing, right? Always invest, always gamble, always whatever, right? What you're willing to lose. I I still sign up to this. If I bought in when it was 22, I bought in when it was 18, I think. Um, why not buy now? I think the project so much, it's improved so much in many ways. There's plenty of room for growth, obviously, but I've drank the Kool-Aid. I see the bigger picture, and I know many do, right? I don't see how I don't keep putting more money into it, and it's not like I'm putting millions of dollars. $20 today is like 2,000 bucks, 6 months ago. So,
this is
um,
this is a multi-year project, and
oh, absolutely.
I think that's why they made the choice to increase the supply, give themselves more runway. I just I don't think they have a super firm foundation yet. Once they are on Clayton and those transactions are going smoothly, and there's the parity is out on both chains, and they start getting back to releasing new content and not rehashing the old that needed to be done. But what can you do? Harmony took a
You're
they took the Browns to the Super Bowl, and we're still cleaning up the mess. And or we're watching Kingdom Studios clean up the mess.
Yeah, yeah. DFK is also my equivalent retirement plan. It's not my only retirement plan, but it's one of different pots of different bags I'm putting into for sure. Um, no, you know what, Bless? I almost think of it. It's kind of uh, pun intended. It's a blessing in disguise. I think this Harmony hack may have been, in many respects, I mean, big picture. When we look back, maybe a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, it may have been a bad thing that turned out to be a good thing. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not fluent in Korean or the language Hangul. I did live in Korea for 1 year, so I do have some inside track on the culture and the economy. Speak a little bit of the language, but not much. Like I said, I was over there for only a year when I was in service. I was back in 2009 in
Oh,
Korea.
wow.
2009, I was in Korea, in Dongdushan, which is close to the DMZ.
No, no way. Oh boy, I bet you can tell stories. What? But we'll save those. We'll save those.
Kabul.
We'll bring you back. But maybe tease one out. I want to hear one, maybe.
What do you want to what do you want to hear
No, I
about?
mean, no. It sounds like it's an interest. I mean, you lived there for a year, and maybe we can tie this. How we can tie it together. I mean, your perspective. I've only heard about how much um the e-sports thing, how big it is in Korea. I mean, did you get a sense for that being there for a year? I mean, this is going back a bit, but I don't know what it looked like back then.
There are so many. The population of Korea, it, excuse me, the Republic of Korea, and I worked with um, what we called the ROK Army soldiers. And when I say ROK, that's ROK, Republic of Korea, because that's what it is. South Korea is the Republic of Korea. North Korea is North Korea. And some people don't understand that there's a distinction between the two. But it is a huge mega center for technology. If you thought the U.S. or Europe was technology center, if you haven't been to Korea, then you have not seen what kind of tech they are working on over there, and it is insane. It is absolutely insane. Just driving through Seoul, you got like 100 foot by like 50 foot, big screen TVs on skyscrapers as you're driving down the road that you can see. It's it's like Seoul is like the, I guess you could relate it to Times Square, but I wouldn't want to sully the name of Seoul by relating it to Times Square. Um, but it's beautiful. The city is beautiful. It has its, its ups and downs. But realistically, the Republic of Korea is the size of New Jersey, and the population is several millions times more
Wow.
than. So they build everything up, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you go through the suburbs and you have house, 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 house. A lot of things are towered up, and that's how they live, unless you're very wealthy and you have a property. But I guess to relate it to DeFi kingdoms, it's they're very tech savvy over there. The rock soldiers that I worked with, we called them Katusas, and they they were. This is before I even had a smartphone. In 2009, I didn't have a smartphone. I had like a flip phone or
I probably did too.
something.
Yeah.
Well, in Korea, I was just using like what we would had, um, just like a burner phone, like a little Nokia, where you used to
Right.
play like the worm
Yeah,
game
I
on,
know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
go around and try to avoid your tail as you eat something, or I don't
Oh
know,
boy, how times have
as
changed.
as the times go by. But yeah, I think it's a huge epic center for technology, and I think if they advertise right, and I've given them some of my insights on the Slack, which is basically their equivalent of the business Discord. Um, so if they advertise right, if Clayton advertises right, and I think you'll see a fair amount of player acquisition.
And maybe we can end with this,
That's not
because
really
I'd
a
be
story about Korea, but
no
I
no no
mean,
no 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 no. I mean, you gave me some insight as to how tech savvy they are and how more advanced they are in many respects. Sort of ahead of the game, but maybe we can end on this point.
in
Um,
2009, my internet there was better than it is now here today in the U.S. I just tell you that.
oh, oh my God, no way. You're getting a kudos. Thank you for your service from Michael. And yes, sort of reiterate that. Thank you for your service indeed. Let's end on this note. I feel like it's one of those chicken or the egg type of things. Because I agree. I think marketing means different things to different people. Um, but to me, marketing could be improved, right? As far as getting, when I think of marketing, I think of getting the word out, right? How do you get the word out? How do you let people know? Um, I've been known to say, hey, you know what, I wish they were maybe a bit better about it, or maybe a bit more proactive in sort of getting the word out. I'm just a small time sort of content creator, I suppose, but some of these bigger ones, get a hold of them. Things are different, but seeing it from maybe their perspective,
They're
and
definitely
maybe
aware of
sort of,
it. They're aware of it. I mean, I've had, I don't know how many times I've been in meetings with the devs. Probably close to 15 meetings with them since
but
May.
do you want to start advertising now? If you bring someone new into this sort of structure, are they gonna end up being frustrated and saying, "Hey, you know what? This is great, but this isn't, you sold me on A, and this is not there yet.
I
There's
think that's why they were so
B."
picky with the partners that they got. You
Right,
know,
right.
um, and with Dreamer having lived there and speaking the language, that means he knows the customs. He knows. You get a lot of respect from people that other people where you understand their culture to an extent. You
Yeah,
know, giving and receiving things. Let me move my camera down. Like, so, if you go to a cashier, right, and I'm in Korea, and I want to pay you respect. If I want to pay you the ultimate respect, I hand you the money with both my hands together like this, and then they'll show you how much respect they have for you if they don't know you. Since I was a foreigner in the country, I paid them the utmost respect by using both my hands. But if you they use the elbow to the wrist and then finally to the hands to show you how much respect when rendering uh, you know money back and forth. And of course, there's other cultural formalities and things like that. But yeah, and
I'm,
stuff things that you never know existed, right?
yeah, I'm gonna need to brush up. I'm gonna need to learn Korean from what I'm hearing. There's a whole new
안녕하세요.
audience. Right? See, I don't even know what that means. You probably told me to
It
go.
just means hello.
Okay, well there you go. See, oh, there you go. Hello to you too. No, this has been great. Bless, I appreciate it. If you all have not seen this yet, I'd recommend you look it over. Sandwich Punch, as always, did a great job of summarizing the AMA. Not this last one, the one before. He always summarizes them, but what he did is he took sort of a high level approach of looking, sort of piecing together things into different subjects. It was a very dense AMA. I think it was almost 2 hours. But it's worth a look. See, here to review, a recap. Highly recommended. I'll post a link here in a sec. In the chat box. With that said, any closing remarks, Bless? Any wise words for us to take home and sort of rejoice in and sort of take on
Wise words for us to rejoice in. Um,
regarding DFK?
well, regarding regarding well, I can go there. Someone said DFK is my only chance. Um, I would just say a wise man makes a plan.
I love that. I love that. I'm not even gonna follow that up with anything. That's great. I love it. I appreciate it, Bless. For those of you watching, I am doing another stream this Sunday. Feel free to come watch us. Mr. Bull on himself is gonna join me, unless something happens. Hopefully, nothing does. I've been bugging him like every day for the last couple weeks, and he finally caved. So, we'll see you Sunday, and if not, I'll definitely see you guys in Gen Chat. Thank you very much. You guys have a nice rest of your Friday. For those stateside, enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and as always, blessed. Thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. Happy to come on anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks.